Alright everybody, this is going to be the beginning in a series of several videos on just beginner guitar. How to get better faster and easier ways to make your playing sort of evolve in a quicker way that makes it takes less time to do. So I'm going to start out by saying, one thing we don't think about very much is how we use our hands for other tasks and how that applies to the guitar. And we are pointing animals, okay? We point at things. We use the fingers that we have to point. And one big mistake I think that guitarists tend to make when they first start playing is they point at everything on the fingerboard. Like say for example we're making a G chord here. We point and we point and we point. Point, point, point. We want to avoid doing that. So when we're learning to make chords, and like let's take G and E minor for example, like a G chord and an E minor chord, right? And if you don't have access to these chords, you can find them online somewhere. But when we're switching those chords, we tend to point, point, point. And we want to avoid that. When we look at our fingers, we stare at them, we actually tend to move them individually at first rather than as a group. Moving them as a unit. So I'm going to encourage you not to look at your fingers when you play. Now that's going to be very difficult, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to take two chords that you find easy to play, and we're going to play the one chord, and we're going to establish some sort of beat. Like you can use a metronome to do this, or you can tap your foot, but some sort of slow tempo that you can actually follow along with. So in this case it would be G, and I'm going to count out a slow 4-beat measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now what you're going to do is you're going to count that beat out, and you're going to strum on the first beat of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And use the other 3 beats to change to the next chord. It's going to sound the most musical for one, which is nice. And it's also going to give you some sort of deadline or time constraint to get to the next chord on. So what we're thinking of the idea is that if we just do this, and don't give ourselves any time in between, it's not going to encourage us to become faster. Okay, so we're going to try to just bring down that amount of time you have in between all of your beats, right? So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Once that becomes easy and you can accomplish that in time, we're going to add a strum on the second beat of that, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And obviously what I'm going to do next, we're going to add a third strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4, and probably you can figure this out already, is we're going to add the fourth beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And before you know it, you'll be playing at a pace of time that you'll be able to actually go changing the chords quick enough to incorporate a strum into what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to move on here. We're going to cover 2 more topics now at the end of this video. Now that we've established a better way for you to accomplish playing through some chords. The other thing is, and going back to that pointing idea, is not watching your fingers when you're playing. Now, at first, next to impossible to do that. Your fingers just need a little help and a little guidance. But once you get the basic shapes of the chords, feeling confident in your fingers, try alternating back and forth. One time you're going to watch your fingers. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then you're not going to watch them. 2, 3, 4. That's going to encourage your hand to work as a unit rather than each individual finger being its own separate entity. We don't want that to be that way, because eventually you're going to have to change chords very quickly, and you're going to want your hand to work as a group, right? If you're not able to do that, you're always going to be a little slowed down when you come to the next chord, and we want to discourage that. The next idea is our fingers are also not only, encouraged to point at things, but our fingers are coordinated in order of the frequency in which we use them. So if, obviously your pointer finger is your most coordinated and dexterous finger, for lack of a better word. I don't want to do that finger because that won't be good. But if you go to your third finger, you can barely move that. Even me, I can barely move that finger around. And your pinky even worse. It's even harder to move these two separately as I can move this first finger separately. So it's counterintuitive to think when you're making chords on the guitar fingerboard to put your first finger down first, then your second finger, then your third. Because what you're forcing your third finger to do is do all the heavy lifting, for lack of a better word. If you place your third finger first, then your second, then your first, well, you got your least coordinated finger of the group, the next most coordinated finger of the group, and then the most coordinated finger, which has all this mobility to find itself in place, right? This becomes even more evident when we play a C major chord on the guitar, which is essentially that. Now the inclination is to put your first finger down first, then your second finger, then your third, but you're reaching to get out there to play that chord. Well, think about that in reverse. Your third finger needs the most opportunity to be successful, so you're going to start it first. Get it in a good position. Second finger in a good position. Then you've got this first finger, all that mobility to move and play it in that spot. On that spot being the C on the first fret of the B string. So don't think in terms of your fingers being, I got to put this one first, that one second, that one third, that one fourth. I mean, that's just the numbers we use to describe them. Actually, work your way backwards in reverse. Even a D chord, which is all kind of in a tight unit here. Third finger in place, second finger in place, first finger in place. Right? If you do it the opposite, you've got your third finger having to do this. I can't get in between there and I can't get settled in. But if you do it this way, you get a nice little way to put your fingers in a good position to begin with. Now, as you learn more chords, you're probably eventually going to get to the point where that won't be a worry. But we're talking about when you first start learning to play the guitar and when you're first going through all those coordination issues that every guitarist goes to. Now, eventually we're going to get to the point where we can strum these chords in time, right? Your fingers change nice and neatly and evenly, and then we're going to talk about strum patterns. Or things like but for now, since you're just beginning, take things very slowly and don't hesitate to tap your foot into some sort of time. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go slowly. I usually try to tell students that it's going to take them 6 to 8 weeks, if they practice frequently, to feel comfortable changing just the first few chords that we're going to learn, and to not get frustrated. Once you get over some of these humps, things much easier. They become much easier, and you will have music coming out of your fingers without any difficulty. So take your time and be patient, and I look forward to another video here pretty soon. Thank you very much.